Hi, I'm Marc Randolph, co-founder of Netflix and 6 other companies. Over the years, I've heard that will never work thousands of times, but I've learned there are things we all can do to increase the chances that they will. So join me for That Will Never Work. Hey everybody, welcome to That Will Never Work. There is a classic definition of a startup, which is a group of people in search of a repeatable, scalable business model. And we talk a lot on the show about what those skills are. But what happens when you start getting close to the repeatable, scalable model? What has to change? Your people? The things they do? What about what you have to work on? Well, today we'll be speaking with Chris Burrage, the founder of Proclamation Goods. So Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Great to be here.
What I'd love to start out with is maybe walking me through what was the problem you were trying to solve, then maybe what you did to try and solve it, and then we can kind of segue naturally into what you want to talk about today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm an avid home chef, and I found as I got into my working career that cooking at home at the end of a stressful day and being able to make something creative with my hands that wasn't tied to a keyboard was really how I let loose. And I found myself, and we were lucky enough for our wedding to get a big 12-piece set from our friends and family. And I found myself just way too frustrated and impatient to go find the lid and cling around. And so I would just grab a skillet, I'd throw it on top of some water that was boiling for pasta. And it's not perfect, but hey, it will boil a little bit faster as a result. And that's kind of how I've cooked naturally. Additionally, I am a environmentalist. I'm quite active in trying to make sure that our world sustains. And I've grown very, very tired, as many have, of just how much stuff we throw away all the time. And I hate to think about the proverbial boardrooms or whatnot, where people are planning for planned obsolescence. And just, we figured we had to bring it back to the basics and do things a different way.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I must confess, I'm not a big cook, but certainly I do have pots and pans. And in fact, I have a ton of pots and pans because we do the Costco set. Mm-hmm. You know, I think it's a set of 641 pieces, and you've got, because of course you need a 13-inch pan and an 11 one and a 10.5 and a 9 and a 6, and there's a 3-inch pan for a single egg, and each of them has their own top, and then there's the pasta insert, and then there's the different size pastas. I mean, it's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And most of that stuff we never use. And then we get the new set and we throw it all away.
Exactly. And that is a planned business model for somebody who has it outlined in Excel to think about how many times in your life you're going to come back and buy a cookware set. Whether you move, whether you have a kid, whether you get a second home, like those are the times people buy it. And our challenge, frankly, our opportunity is to take that flywheel that keeps spinning of the replacement cycle and just sit there quite actively, but say, hey guys, why don't you join us? Why don't you think about consuming differently? And the entire world doesn't have that privilege, like, let's be honest, but for the top of the bell curve here in the States and other Western countries where we have earning ability, the world needs us to buy things that last and that don't end up in the landfill way prematurely.
So the sustainable model, we could go 2 directions. One, we could make this pot and pan out of wood or out of bamboo, which I think has some inherent problems for cookware.
Yeah, for sure.
Or you go, this is going to be the last, basically do that approach of this is going to be the last pan I ever buy.
Exactly. And we dove so deep in all of the research of the materialities of each and every material for cookware. And yes, bamboo doesn't work to my knowledge. There is clay cookware out there, which is fantastic, but it is fragile. Yeah. And does break quite easily, and also doesn't have distributing heat properties particularly.
Or anti-stick properties, I'd imagine.
That too, but nor does ours, which I like to call out. Like, this is proudly not non-stick, we like to say. And that is because as we dove into it and we learned about all the different coatings out there, we realized one thing, that any coating gives a death sentence to your pan.
Okay, so for the people who are just listening to us, and just to club people over the head who are watching, tell us what you built here.
Yeah.
What did all this experimentation lead to?
Yeah.
And, you can't hear this in my mic, but there is a pot and a pan sitting right in the table between Chris and I.
Yeah, and I'll take a moment to explain our flagship product here. This is the Proclamation Duo. It is real metal. It is. There you go. Hopefully, it is hard. It is real.
I told Chris he was waving it around earlier, and I said it was giving me PTSD from early days of my marriage of being chased around with a fry pan. No, Lorraine, I'm just kidding. But anyway, this is heavy duty stuff.
Sure, it is. It's inspired by some of the most premium cookware out there. It rivals the most premium cookware out there. And what it does differently than some of those is that we chose to have the pieces work inherently together. That no piece should be alone by itself to do its job if it can come together another piece and do it better. So what we have is a multiply stainless steel skillet here, 12-inch. Honestly, a skillet is a skillet to a certain degree, but this is as premium as you can get. And then we have a 12-inch wok stock pot hybrid, we call it, that's deep enough to boil 2 pounds of pasta and splayed enough to do some stir frying as well, like a wok. And then the...
And is that... No, that you're gonna see my amateur cook thing coming in. Oh, and then you're gonna say that the fry pan fits neatly over the top of the whole thing.
I mean, for both storage, but also practically, you can use this as a Dutch oven and have it radiate heat all throughout. You can even get real fancy and turn it over and use it as a bread cloche and make some pizza. Or, I mean, at some point, like and then, like the reality is, it's a pot and a pan, and we made sure they could work together, and we made sure they were gonna last. And as for non-stick, our opinion is if you don't want it to stick, use some fat. Butter's delicious.
Absolutely. All for fat and food. So I will say, as I kind of gave you the caveat that I'm not a big chef, but one of the members on my team, I learned last night at dinner, is like a trained chef and raves about this.
I met her on the way in. I was flattered. I mean, we have more fans out there than we know. And to think that this morning, thousands of people had their eggs cooked on Proclamation Party products. And last night, thousands of people had some sort of meal, whether it was heating up leftovers or whether it was a gourmet meal. I don't really care. I mean, they were cooking for themselves and they were getting more in love with providing for themselves and their family. And we're a part of that. And it's just a total honor.
It's very cool. I mean, so it actually is an intersection of kind of two interests of mine, one of which is not, as you probably picked up by now, the third time I said it, is not necessarily cooking. If you had a grill, no, man, I'm all in.
That's how I got started. It's a slippery slope.
But two interests. One is obviously sustainability. You know, I'm really believe in the importance of that, and making something which is made to last for sustainability reasons is tremendously powerful. But I also have always been fond of that whole category of the last X you'll ever buy. I just think that says something not just about durability and sustainability, but about product quality, and that life is too short. Well, actually, I'll tell you my theory. So first of all, what do these things cost?
$379 this retails for currently.
Okay. So one of the theories, I haven't told, this is a great podcast lesson. My wife and I have this thing we call the mustard theory. Okay. It's probably not a theory technically for you science people. Maybe it's a theorem or a postulate or something. I'm getting off track. All right. I'm going to call it the mustard theory. And the mustard theory goes like this, that if you wanted to own the very, very best house in the world, it's probably going to be $100 million. So it's basically about a 99.6 million more than the average house. Okay, you want to buy the best car in the world? Maybe it's $300,000 or $400,000. So now we're talking, several $100,000 more than the average car. But if you want to buy the very, very best mustard in the world, it's only $2 or $3 more than the crap you would buy in the supermarket. So for God's sake, buy the best mustard. And I'm going to say that this kind of fits with my mustard theory, that for me to be cooking with the very, very best pots in the world, yes, $379 sounds like a potload, if I can use that term, of money to pay for cookware. But I'm going to have it forever, and I'm going to notice the difference every single
meal. And then
meal.
There's some reality.
It's like a commercial for you.
I mean, price does not equal quality, as we both know, but it can be correlated with it, and sometimes is. in this case, we're making it here in the US, we're making it in Wisconsin, we're making it with a family-owned company that's been stamping steel for generations. It costs a little bit more to make this product too. And it is not prohibitively expensive for those who can afford the lifestyle. And frankly, for those who, I'm sure you know many, and I do too, who increasingly now that we're getting out of this pandemic, go to meals at $300 a tab several times a week, right?
Yeah.
So invest on your home experience. We've all been investing at home over the last few years, and to double down on some quality stuff that lasts, that you can literally hand to your grandkids if you choose to. It's kind of back in time, kind of the Al Bean style of branding, but it's what we're all about.
Okay, this sounds awesome. So you've iterated, you've gotten to a point. You go, this is actually working. Picked up on that.
Yeah.
I picked up on the fact that you've got thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds.
No, I mean, if we can, I mean, the reception's been amazing. So my co-founder Tony Leo and I, he's a product designer, industrial designer. Used to work at Williams-Sonoma Pottery Barn for decades. I got my chops in the e-commerce world by my time at Casper, serving as general manager there, and really obsessed on the decision of cohorts of people choosing to buy different products, and especially at home. And with my passion for sustainability, for creating real quality products, this led me to cookware. And the response that the two of us have found has been incredible. Food and Wine has named us a game changer. We've gotten 3 different internationally acclaimed design awards for this product. And we, as you alluded to in your intro, have had enough sort of product market fit, success, traction, those things that you yearn for, that we can expand this business, and we are going to pull this into a full line with multiple sizes. We're launching with a national retailer.
All right, so you're crushing it.
We're trying our best.
What's the problem? What can I help you with?
Yeah, so really what I wanted to dive into was sort of the culture side of the business, but really the people side of the business, which I think leads to culture, and thinking about the personality types that we've had that have helped us to date, and the personality types that we need to hire for as we scale, and recognizing that they may not be the same, but hopefully you have some continuity and all of those things, right? So I guess very specifically, we are building a team now, and we're lucky enough to be building a team in 2022 when we can have a contractor for every single thing we could possibly think of, and we could have a SaaS app for most everything too. And so we need to choose which specific roles and specific personalities are going to be part of the lean team at the core of this thing.
So how many employees do you have now?
As of Monday, we have 4.
Is that because someone left or someone joined?
No, we hired somebody. This is a big deal for us. We're growing.
So wow, the 33% increase.
Exactly.
At this rate, you're going to have tens of thousands of people by the end of the year. And scientists, I know I got that wrong too. Just trying to preclude all the hate mail. So listen, it's a great question, and it's one that I think everyone struggles with when they're in the situation, which it sounds like you're in, which is you get that, holy crap, it's working. We have more stuff to do than my team can deal with right now. And so all of a sudden you begin saying, how do I expand it? And you're right that these days you could outsource every single possible piece of the business. I mean, there's apps that'll do payroll. Those ones that will do inventory management. There are ones that will do shipping and receiving. I mean, everything. You're right. Every single piece can be put out of it. So is a basic formula. I was going to say there's probably a couple things, but there's a basic one, which is, and I hope you're already doing this, but number one is you really have to very consciously decide which categories will make the difference between having a great employee and an average employee. And clearly that's not all of them. Mm-hmm. So for example, just to pick a random one, you go, okay, my accounts payable, my ability to handle. So if you said the key differentiator of my business is that I'm running on a 0.5% margin, okay, I am incredibly good with cash. In other words, I have to be really good with cash. If I make a mistake, I'm out of business because I'm running then you go, wow, having a really good accounts payable person could be the difference between success or failure. because they really have this intuitive sense of who do I pay next? Who do I pay when? How do I figure out how to pay half the invoice? It's a very key, integral part of what your business might be. And I picked that consciously because I go, that probably has very little to do with what's critical for you.
I mean, it reminds me of my bootstrapping days, but no.
Well, it probably was critical to bootstrapping. And so you didn't hire someone, you did it yourself.
True.
You go, I need to be incredibly careful with my cash. Not only am I not going to give this out to an app, which pays things automatically. I'm not even going to hire someone to do it. I'm going to do it myself. It's so important. But that's the point. Whereas there's exactly the point. There is other aspects of your business where if you can do an exceptional job versus a decent job, makes a tremendous difference in the business. Mm-hmm. So for example, and again, my familiarity with your business is now limited to being 22 minutes, 25 seconds long.
You're a quick study.
Yeah, it's that I go, probably you have a unboxing experience, which you think is important, that someone is buying this last piece of cookware they're ever going to have, and how it feels at that one moment where this thing arrives in the mail or they get it home from the store. Mm-hmm. And so you go, having this person who is my production person, who's in charge of what is my materials, how does it fit, what's the fit and finish, when it comes back, do I reject every 7th or 8th carton, is it packed perfectly? Mm-hmm. That could be the thing that you go, this does make a huge difference in it. Mm-hmm. So that's the first rough screen, is you pick those handful of things that are critical for you to have the very, very best you can have. And you push everything else out, and you recognize, I'm not going to worry about it. I am going to say, I'm going to use an app which pays everything automatically. I just set a dial as it aged by, X days, and fine. I'll make mistakes. I'll pay things that should have been paid. It's not going to kill me. But the bandwidth that you solve as a leader of having to supervise someone, the overhead of having to hire someone and manage people, not worth it. Yeah. Whereas in some areas, it's a critical one. The other interesting thing is, as you're picking people for these next key roles, is you are still at the point where I think flexibility is critical. Again, I'm not 100% positive, because it could be you go, done.
I think you are correct. I mean, flexibility is everything. I mean, we need personalities that are willing to do things that are far, far outside of their job description.
Exactly. And I think what you're looking for is, just when you began going through your process, you start at the very beginning with this sense, and you had someone make a prototype and it came back and it wasn't good, and you changed stuff, sent it out, another prototype. How many prototypes did you go through to get to this one?
Score. I mean, 50 probably. We mean, thankfully, 3D printing exists, so we can do it cheap and we do it quick. And so we used every modern technology we could to make a age-old product.
Yeah, 50. I think it's a pretty good number. I mean, it's a classic situation, and that's hardware, where you're limited to how many iterations you can do, compared to a software or services where you do 500 or 5,000 iterations. Sure. And I think a lot of people would benefit from thinking about their hiring the same way. Not perhaps in the way your mind might flash to. We mean, I'll just keep hiring people, and then if I don't like them, I discard them and hire another one and do that 50 times. I'm saying no, that you begin to recognize that my design is going to have to change. And so when you did this design, you did not call up the fabricators in Wisconsin and go, build me one. Right. You said, I'm going to do one down and dirty, and I'm going to do it quick and cheap, because I know I'm going to be flexible. And in other words, as you're hiring people, I think you would not be looking at this production person you're hiring and say, tell me all your experience in evaluating paper stock, and tell me your attention to detail and how it nestles in the box. And yes, that's important. But at this stage, more fundamentally, you're asking yourself, what happens if 2 weeks from now I say, hey, we changed our plan, and now you're doing something different? Mm-hmm. How would that person do at that? Yep. And it's a critical thing, for the exact same reason that you don't want to say, I did some CAD cams, make me 5,000 of them. Yeah, exactly. It's the same reason. I think it's the exact same approach when you're hiring. So in a nutshell, it's pick the key things and push out as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And even for the key things, until you have this elusive, repeatable, scalable model, or in your case, I'd probably say it's more product market fit. I would be really favoring flexibility in the types of people that you bring in who are totally comfortable doing different things and not just have the mindset that and the talent to do different things, but have the attitude that when you come in and say, you know that thing you worked on for a month? We're not
canceling it.
We're not canceling it. And have them, rather than sulky and bummed, they get excited because now they get something new and cool to work on.
I love that you've described like a number of our team members now. I mean, one just joined this week, so we'll see. I have promising thoughts, but those who are on board, I mean, it really, you've experienced this, but to see people come together towards a common goal and to go through ups and downs with it, it's just the most rewarding thing possible. A follow-up question, if I might. During your days of serving as CEO at Netflix, how did you surround yourself, like specifically with staff, to support your needs? I mean, I ask that in a time where personal assistants aren't totally common, but do exist, and just trying to figure out the increasing complexity of the business that inherently, like, your day doesn't get long.
So I think I'm allowed to ask this, but Chris, how old are you?
I'm 36.
Okay. So you're past, in my opinion, this point where you have a pretty honest understanding of who you are, which your strengths, your weaknesses, your style. If you had said you were 26, I would have given you a different answer. So tune in some future podcasts where I do this with someone who is 26. But for someone like yourself, Chris, who does have a good sense of who you are, the answer is you've got to figure that out to work with you. So when you say, how did I do it? Mm-hmm. Well, I did Netflix when I was 38. And it wasn't my first startup by any means. Mm-hmm. So I learned quite a long time ago what my style is. And my style is I don't know how to follow through. I don't have ADHD in a diagnosed sense. I have a really hard time staying focused on the same thing to follow through all the details. It's just not who I am. And so the people that I chose to surround myself with are people who have the skill that I lack, which is an attention to detail. They are people who recognize there's tons and tons of little things. Marc has this great idea. Yeah. We're going to do this. And I'm really good at that. And then I'm off to the next thing. And then someone else has to basically go through it. And that's me.
I mean, I can relate to that. And in reading your book, I related to much of, I mean, I am ADD diagnosed. So I went up there. But it's an adjustment to become comfortable with supporting people or having people to support those tasks. But especially coming off of a bootstrap period where austerity was the name of the game, and like we all had to do it 100%. You know? Well,
I'm going to push it back to you the exact same way I was talking about how you decide to hire people, which, as I was saying before, if you remember, it's you pick the handful of things that have the highest benefit from you having a great person versus an average person. So as you're looking at what you do all day, as you look at what you did this week, as you review your to-do list for the month, it's entirely appropriate to look at the list the exact same way and say, what are all the things that I worked on that wouldn't have made a difference if someone did them half as well as I did? Mm-hmm. What are the ones that I had to be involved in? And if you are a product guy, then every minute you can take something off your plate that's not product, that you can then reallocate to product, you got a huge increase in the efficiency and productivity and likelihood of success of the company.
Absolutely.
And the company that I did after Netflix called Looker, the
data analytics platform.
What's that?
The data analytics.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm familiar with it.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Was Casper a customer, I guess?
It was, yeah. Yeah.
So, but the person who was the kind of the real genius behind it started off wanted to be the CEO, and then didn't take long to realize two important things, which is number one, he didn't like it. That was the fundamental piece of it. But the second thing is he found himself doing things all day that he wasn't very good at, and even more critically, was taking him away from the thing that he was arguably one of the very best in the world at, which was this genius product mind. And that became not just him saying, how do I use my day better? It became a company strategy about how do we take Lloyd and put him in a position where he can spend as much of his day thinking about the genius innovations in our product that we can. And and for his case, it meant not being CEO. It meant not being even an engineering manager. It meant being someone who was able to truly be a product visionary.
Yeah.
I mean, still board chair. So this is not like he sacrificed some sense of this being his company, but took it to the extreme of saying, what is the thing that I'm really uniquely suited to do?
Especially to keep the company forward looking, because I mean, we are a cookware company today, right? But we're not a cookware company tomorrow or even like now, right? I mean, we're proud of this product. We love this product. We're expanding into additional sizes to fit more lifestyles. But when you think about our expanded proclamation of putting an end to planned obsolescence, it really, you look around the house and you think about all these things that people bring into their homes that are disposable when they really shouldn't be. And in this world where people wear their Allbirds shoes and save up to buy their Teslas, they walk into homes full of crap, and we want to fix that. And so your point's well taken. And where my head goes is the excitement of defining those new products, figuring out those new supply chains, figuring out how we can, frankly, educate customers and get them excited and to aspire to premium brands that do last.
So I'll give you the one last coaching tip for this. And it's very hard transition for someone who has gone through a bootstrap period, and who is largely through this force of vision and gotten something to happen, is the letting go. It's really hard, which is this recognition that when you say this particular thing does not benefit from being best in class, and you walk away from paying attention to it, you have to okay, take a deep breath. I'm going to let something suck. And I have to recognize that there's a corresponding astounding excellence that came from me not wasting my time on every single detail in the company and getting everything right.
It's one thing I'm trying to have my North Star motivation personally these days to be making it bigger than me so it can be bigger than me, and outlast me and all those things. And I really related in your book towards the end, you mentioned how a idea is not yours for very long. It becomes shared almost immediately, and it's true, and people own it and adapt it, and it becomes something very, and I feel like I'm just starting to see that, and it's amazing, but it is hard to let go. It is.
Yeah. It's I think that's the big lesson, is you got to do all the things that's the sum up for today. For all these things, you've got to let go. I mean, you've got to let go of certain areas where you thought were so critical and you had to have your hands on. You have to let go of whole areas of the business which are not the critical ones that you have to get right. You have to be able to recognize that I'm going to hire someone who is going to get one thing right and other things wrong. The speed at which you move forward is how much you're willing to leave behind too.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, this is really exciting. I'm going to have to get a really nice
we'll send
set.
You one. Sure.
Whoa! See, there's a benefit to being a podcast host.
Yeah.
But we also owe me, besides a pot and pan, is I want to come back and hear how your transformation has gone.
I'd love to. I'd love to keep you abreast of it and come on back and share some updates.
That'd be fantastic. Well, listen, thanks, Chris, for coming on.
Thank you.
Good luck.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Like hearing about these topics and more? Well, pick up my book, That Will Never Work, The Birth of Netflix and the Amazing Life of an Idea, now out on paperback. And if you would like to be a guest on the podcast, that's easy. Simply come to marcrandolph.com/guest to apply.